let's talk about SciTask API because it can get very tricky. So here on the left, I have a test. It's doing some things, none of them matter much. But at the end of it, I'm calling this command. In this command, I have a SciTask that is taking multiple arguments. So when SciTask takes more than one argument, you have to wrap them in an object. If it's taking one argument, so let's say if this was only taking tweet ID, things are easy, right? It's very simple. Most of the time, you might have a single arg function in your source code, and things are fine. But when your source code function, which you're wrapping with SciTask, in this case, this is my source code function. When that has multiple arguments, you have to have it in an object. Now, if your source code function, for instance, like this authorize user function, takes an object as its argument, everything's fine and dandy, right? No problem. But let's say you have a case where you absolutely do not want to change the source code function. And here's my source code function, ddb, delete, tweet, and timeline. And it takes 4 arguments. I don't want to change it, right? Because I don't want to change it. Like, don't force me to change it. I just want to use SciTask, use this API. I don't want to change my source code. So it's that simple. Let's see what happens when we're thinking like that. So we run the test, right? And I will log this out. So these 2 logs I'm getting here, right? Very interestingly, let's have the command open also. So let's just open this on the side. So here is argument 1, tweet ID, argument 2, user ID, and the other 2 are default values, right? So I expect to see tweet ID and user ID. But what I see instead is the first thing that gets logged out, the tweet ID, is an object with tweet ID and user ID. And then user ID is undefined. All right, so this is where, as the user, you start getting confused. Okay, what am I doing wrong? But if all you do is you are just matching SciTask's mandate of having to pass the object multiple arguments as an object, then everything will work. So let's run that again. This test is just adding a tweet and then cleaning it up, right? So then it's going to be fine. You will get the whatever your console logging not wrapped in an object. So and that's kind of annoying to me, but there is a easy way to handle it. So I'm keeping my source code as is. I'm not changing it. And in my task, so let's just put this on this side. What we're going to do is we're going to get that function, right? ddb, delete, tweet, and timeline. It's going to be right there. And all we're going to do is we're just going to wrap it in another function, right? We're just calling our function as normal, our source code function. But then the intermediate API, we will wrap the arguments in an object, which SciTask likes. So the only place anybody knows about this intermediate function is SciTask. That's it, really, right? And then in our command, then we are going to call the cleanup function, the intermediate function, instead of the original thing. So we're not going to change anything. And then we are going to get our expected console logs. Yeah, like that. No objects, no weird things, right? That's the API that we expect. Again, SciTask API, when you have more than one arguments that are being passed, it mandates them to be an object. And if you want your source code to work like you were expecting it to, it would also have to take an object as an argument. And if it doesn't, then just create an intermediate function that takes the same arguments as your original function, but this time wrapped in an object, and use it that way. Otherwise, it's really not worth wrestling it. I spent a while trying to figure this out, but I hope it can help someone. That's all later.